Okay, our next speaker thankfully doesn't need any introduction, so easy job for the chair here. Fri Harrington, the Adult Literacy Organiser in the City of Galway VEC. He's going to talk a little bit about assessment in his practice. Ciarán.
Okay, thanks Inés. First of all, given that we're all so uptight about the new ETBs and we're all going to be next August or September, this is an example of how the adult literacy organisers from County Galway VEC, City of Galway VEC and Roscommon VEC have got together in committee this week to produce such a beautiful day for you. So, now, before I start, this is a disclaimer. It's just our own system here, so we're not telling anybody what to do. It's what we do in our centre. On the left of the slide there, you'll see our student individual learning plan. There's 50 or 60 of them outside on the table. They're free, so there's not a lot that's free in Ireland anymore. And even if you don't like it, you can burn it for energy, because there's a shortage of fuel as well in the country. On the right-hand side of the slide, there's a synoptic view of the relationship of our initial assessment with our general progress assessment in the centre. So after initial assessment, there's a summary done and a level is established on the lines of the ATABI system. There's a short-term plan drawn up as well by the assessor, who is Alison Jones here. She's on the second row. And going back to what Derek said, about what Jay said yesterday, it's very important, the person who does this for you in the centre, they have to be an expert, in my opinion, in language, but they have also got to be a very warm and understanding person and understand the context of adult literacy and the context of the time and place of the student, and Alison does this perfectly for us. She then draws up a short-term plan with the goal of the student in mind and gives a 3 or 4 week lesson plans to the tutor who starts. There's a short-term review done after 8 weeks of the student with us, in which the tutor and Alison look at the initial assessment document again, like we do in ATABI, and we establish if there is a level increase. And we do a level increase in both the cognitive skills, confidence, and the soft skills that you were talking about a second ago. So I'll move on to the next slide here. The initial assessment could last between a half an hour and an hour. The document is 5 pages long. You will see it in the book. It's in the middle of the book if you want to pick up the book outside. It's not formal in the sense of there are no tests given. We do assess reading and writing, but we do those observing reading and writing. We use the texts from Challenger 1, 2 and 3. I'm not sure if you've heard of those. So we're looking at the cognitive skills and whether the person can transfer, say, the 46 phonemes or sounds in English to the 26 alphabetical letters in English. So that's the cognitive side of it. It's a combination of subjective assessment and objective assessment. The subjective assessment comes from the student, and the objective assessment comes from what I consider is the expert in the centre. It's then linked through our individual learning plan, which again is outside if you want to take a copy of it. So in our system, there's both systematicity. You need a framework, I think, and I think, if I may say so this morning, we do need a framework nationally for this. And there's specificity, if I can pronounce that word properly, specificity, which takes into consideration the time and place of the student, where they are, what they're at, and where they come from. Now, this is the 5 pages of our initial assessment document. There are 3 parts to it. The can-do skills in relation, we've borrowed the ATABI system here for the can-do skills, and these are the skills of specific reading. You see, I have a problem with that word, specific. These are the skills, the can-do skills in transferring phonemes, 46 phonemes in English, to the 26 alphabetical letters, or encoding and decoding. The confidence on the right, which we think is a huge element, and we do measure that at the beginning. I'll show you how in a second, or attempt to do that. And on the left, contextual information, which we divide into what's called in psychology schemata or schemata, whichever way you want to pronounce it, and self-awareness. A level 1 to 3 is established for each of the following the Atabi scheme. Now, this is just an example of a page in the book, and it's actually the first page of our initial assessment document. So if you look at, say, if I can point to it here, if you look at the top, it says, I can read all the letters in the alphabet. It's very, very similar. I think it's an actual replica of the Atabi system. And I know Marion Lynch is down there this morning, so she must be very happy that we're using this. So it's a 1, 2, 3, but we don't do the stages because we think the stages at this stage are a little too complicated. If you look down where I've highlighted in blue, this is where we establish the level. So there are 5 pages of this which are not done in the presence of the student. They're done afterwards because we don't want to intimidate the student with a whole load of pages and documents in front of them. Now, measuring confidence, Mary Flanagan was asking about this from County Clare, and it's a huge problem for everyone. So what we do is we divide it into 2 levels. Confidence in the specific performance of reading, writing, speaking, listening, and numeracy. And I'll show you how we do that in a second. And then we look at general confidence, and I'll refer to that again in a second. So this is another page of the initial assessment document. We do, just to answer Mary's question there, we do score, if you actually can score confidence. If you look up to the top there, I am confident about following signs in a public place. So we give that a 1, 2, or 3 along the lines of the Atabi system. It may not suit everybody, but it's our attempt to get confidence down as far as a level is concerned. So we thought, what better way to do it than just to copy the Atabi system? We establish a level there. You see the blue highlighted area there. So we establish a level for that. And we do the same with confidence for writing. Now, general confidence indicators, this is the most difficult thing to do, and we're talking about not specifically reading, writing, speaking, listening. We're talking about the general confidence of people when they come into your centre and how you measure that. Well, you notice it straight away in their physical bearing and maybe the trembling in the voice and the shaking and so forth. But what we've done here is we've used a book by Charnley and Jones, 1979. It's available on Amazon.com for €450. But we have photocopied it down back at the centre. You can actually photocopy the book, and we have them available to each one of you for €150. Anyway, Charnley and Jones carried out a study in 1979 of 1,000 adult literacy learners in the UK. And they were asked a whole lot of questions. And the part here on the left is what came of this study. So it's a reification really of what confidence really is. So they talked about physical bearing, they talked about anxiety, they talked about attitudes. I think Mary mentioned that as well. Physical voice, which is trembling, self-assurance, defeatism, embarrassment, self-trust, distrust, alarm, and dread. I've added there metaphorical voice, which I think Mary Flanagan referred to as well a few minutes ago. And that's not the skill or the ability, but the confidence to speak up for oneself, the confidence of saying who you are, the confidence in becoming a citizen in their country and taking part in society. On the right here, myself and Alison have made a list of the changes in level of confidence that you may notice during the course of the stay of the student with you. I'll just mention a few of them there. Curriculum input. After a while with us, the students begin to want to input into curriculum, as in learner-centeredness, and they tell us what they want to do. Critical reflection, they might come and say they want a change of tutor because the present tutor isn't doing enough with them. Evangelization doesn't refer to born-again Christianity or anything like that. Evangelization, what we mean by that is that the student goes out and talks about us and more students come in. So that they go out and they generally tell everybody that we're great. So more people come into adult literacy. Basically, they go out and tell everybody that there's not a school atmosphere in the centre, and they're treated, as they say in French or Spanish, on a two-a-two basis, not on the two polite forms in foreign languages. They're treated on the familiar terms in the centre. Physical bearing, they might begin to stand upright, they might actually come into the office and talk to the receptionist, they express opinions, they contribute to the centre in general, they might get work, they go into a group class, which is very important for things like a tabby. They will move from one-to-one into a group. And learning autonomy, which we try to develop in our centre with different strategies that we give them. Because 2 to 4 hours, or even the 6 to 8 hours in a tabby, is not enough for people to develop reading and writing and develop confidence. So learning autonomy strategies are very important for us. Now, the contextual information we divide into 2 areas: schematic knowledge and self-awareness. Hopefully this synoptic view of what we do will help you. So the context: schemata, self-awareness. Schematic comes from the singular word schema or schema, and it's been used in psychology, and those of you who've done any counselling or psychotherapy courses will be aware of what it is. In linguistics, it's divided into form and content. Form refers to, if I go up there to the top, genre, language, register, and layout. Genre, don't worry, I'm not talking about James Joyce and literature and poetry and all that kind of thing. I'm talking about the 7 macro text types that are studied maybe on the Leaving Cert these days. And also the micro texts. A micro text might be, say, a shopping list. A macro text would be a narrative scheme. In the depressed Anglo-Saxon world, we usually tell our narrative in the same way. We say, there once was a king who had so much gold that he paved the streets of his city in gold. But usually what comes next in the depressed and repressed England, Ireland, and the United States, if I may say so, is the word however, or but. So say, let me go with my story again. There once was a king, he was so rich that he paved the streets of his city in gold, but he got a rash. What comes next? The response comes next. So he put an ad in the Galway Advertiser, and he was looking for a rashologist, or whatever they're called, a dermatologist, and the dermatologist came, fixed his rash, got married to his daughter, and the evaluation comes next. They all lived happily ever after. So that type of narrative structure is built into our brains when we grow up with our parents, and they tell us stories, and then we go to school, and even that narrative structure has turned into essays in schools, and if you look at academic articles, they're actually written in that structure as well. So what am I talking about that for? Many people, we observe how many people come into us, whether they're able to tell us their story in that context or not. Because one thing is the phonemes and the graphemes and being able to write a sentence, write their names, but they also are aware or not aware of those type of texts. Another one would be procedure, which is a recipe. So in a recipe, you've always got the goal, which is, say, coming from my own sort of culture, how to make a Spanish tortilla. That would be a goal. But you've got the ingredients as well, which are the materials, whatever you put into that, onions, potatoes, olive oil, and so forth. They're the materials. And then you have a sequence of events that are always in the same grammar. It's always adverbs. First you do this, then you do that, and depending who you're talking to, you use the imperative or you use a present simple. You do this, you do that, or you do the other. Or if it's the imperative, they say to you, bake this, bake that, do this. So we observe, as well as the reading and writing, people's ability to be able to explain things to you. And more often than not, people who don't read and write very well are not able to do those things either. Now, moving on to content, I'll have just put up a few words up there for you. Okay. If you look there, the family, school, social networks, learning style. So that's the content. The content really refers to all the baggage that you bring to the reading event. And it's, if you're Irish, it'll include things like Gay Byrne and Jerry Ryan and the famine and the 1916 Rising and all that sort of stuff. So if you don't have that knowledge in your head, when you come to the reading event, you actually won't be able to read. It's not just the phonemes and the graphemes. I'm going faster in this, okay? Self-awareness we also look at, and we're talking here about the person's awareness of why he or she is in the situation that they are. We look at learning autonomy, we look at learning style, and we look at confidence, which is the big thing when they come into the office to us. And we look at their attitudes and feelings. So moving on, this is just an example of what's in the book as well, how we give a level to that. So we give a level 1, 2, or 3 again, along Atabi lines to schematic knowledge, to self-awareness, and to confidence. Moving down further, this is it even more specific as far as learning awareness. We give a level for learning style, attendance. I prefer to work in a one-to-one, or I prefer to work in a group, and the learner autonomy as well. I've just put in some books there on schematic knowledge and on genre and text types for you if you want to consult them. Now, moving on, after the 5 pages of the initial assessment are done, we produce a summary of the levels, the long-term goal, and the short-term plan. This is it here. So this is a summary of the 5 pages. So we give a level to reading, writing, numeracy, listening and speaking, confidence, and also the contextual assessment below. And we establish, or the student establishes for us, a long-term goal. We move on, and Alison designs a short-term plan for the student and gives the tutor a 5-page or 4 or 5, is a 3 or 4 week lesson plan based on this. So she puts in the short-term goal, general strategy, and she puts in specific strategies for reading, writing, numeracy, and so forth, and the context as well. After about 8 weeks with us, the tutor does a review using the exact same document, and it's very similar to the Atabi document again. So we look back over the 5 pages of the initial assessment, and just like in Atabi, if you look there at the yellow highlighting that I did, we establish a level increase. So up here, if in the original assessment the person was at level 1 for reading and writing, and now is at level 2, down here we put level 2, and the level increase is 1, just like in the Atabi system. And we do the same as far as gauging contextual progress and confidence. So here you have context, what is it now? Level 2. Schematic, what is it now? Level 2, and so forth. So we put the increase in here in the level increase. Now, just before I go, I still have time in these, no?
1 minute.
Just a word on text achievements and activities. So it's not just all about reading and writing and the confidence and the context. We'd like to take a record of what people do in the classroom. So we do this with text achievements and activities. And we have pages in the book which record achievements and texts used. There's a place for the date, the tutor and the student writing what they've done in each class as far as what achievements, what texts they've used, and so forth. So how do we gauge what an achievement is? Well, we go back to Charnley and Jones, 1979 again, and their survey, the 1,000 people that were surveyed listed in order of priority what they thought was the most important achievement in adult literacy in order. And the order is effective personal achievement, which meant merely I feel more confident. Effective social achievement, which is I get on better in society with so and so. Socioeconomic achievement, which I know Kieran Cannon would have been interested in, which is getting work. An active achievement, which is becoming more participative in society, joining the library and so forth. And cognitive achievement, believe it or not, is the last achievement that they noted, which is I can read a sentence or I can write my name. But confidence is the main thing. So to make a conclusion, and I'll read it because I'll be faster, because if not I'd probably go off on another tangent. Initial assessment combines self-assessment and expert assessment by the assessor through informal observation of reading and writing and the gathering of contextual information. So subjective, objective, cognitive, confidence and contextual. Initial assessment is part of an overall integrated system and an individual learning plan. The tutor, after the short-term stage, compares progress with the initial assessment and establishes then if there has been a level increase in the style of a tabby. And if I just may say one more thing, in our centre anyway, we've spent an awful lot of money in the last, say, 7 years, and I know adult literacy has spent a pile of money since the white paper on adult education. And I think it's only fair to be accountable for that. We need to be able to say in the future where that money has gone. We wanted it in the beginning, as we were saying yesterday. Now we have it, but we should be accountable for it.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.